Good evening. Welcome back to Silicon Valley Metaphysics, the show that explores alternative practices and therapies in the Silicon Valley. And tonight, my guest is Rainie. I'm excited about this. I happened to be looking at a meetup and saw that Brian was holding this meetup. And even though I didn't get to go, I still had to get a hold of him. I just had this really good feeling. And sure enough, we met, we chatted, and here he is. And Brian is a professional intuitive and also a martial arts instructor. So we're going to be talking a lot about intuition and energy, and it's going to be a great show. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you for inviting me. I was really looking forward to this. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Great, great. So how do you teach people to be intuitive?
That's a question that comes up a lot in classes, and it's kind of a misconception because some people will say, well, so-and-so was intuitive, or my aunt was intuitive, but I'm not. We're born that way. Everyone is born intuitive. We're taught not to use it. It starts very early on, and almost from day one. Ignore what your intuition is telling you, do what I say instead, and we just shut it down over a period of time.
Exactly. When that rational mind kicks in, it's like everything's great until we start thinking.
Yes, absolutely.
And that is the worst thing we can do. And it is. It's unfortunate that we take that away from our children. I was very fortunate that I was in a household where that kind of behavior was nurtured.
Wonderful.
So how about yours?
No.
No. Okay.
I had, my father's cousin was a professional psychic, and of course she was the black sheep of the family because of it.
Oh.
And it's funny because many of my family members are quite intuitive, but they don't want to talk about it. And it's part of society.
Exactly.
Society tends to frown on it when you bring it up. So we just don't talk about it.
So when did you come across your intuitive gifts or start to use them?
When I was very young, I saw things very easily, and I was kind of confused that nobody else was noticing. And it kind of, you don't see that, I see that, why don't you see that? And so over a period of time, I just shut it down. I got into martial arts when I was very young. I was 12. And after a few years of studying the physical, I happened upon some instructors who knew energy-based martial arts. Completely changed everything. And we started to play and practice, and they showed me a whole different world. I then progressed on and eventually embraced it, became a master myself, teaching for many years. And one of my students approached me and said, you do this so easily in martial arts. Have you thought about taking all that wonderful energy and moving it into healing arts? And I went, no. She says, we're holding a class I think you would really enjoy.
Awesome.
And that was my first introduction to intuitive skills.
And how old were you?
Let's see, I was about 30 when that took place. So it was quite a while ago.
Yeah.
And I embraced the skills, fell in love with them, really enjoyed practicing the skills and then co-teaching the classes. And then over the last 20 years, I've been teaching the classes.
That's excellent.
And the fun thing is I married the two disciplines together. So what I learn in martial arts, I take to intuitive skills and healing arts. What I learn there, I take back to martial arts. And it's a great mix.
Exactly. And people don't realize that you can take the intuitive skills and left. I don't know. I live my whole life intuitively. And my mother used to tell me that I was flighty, I guess you could say, or that I jumped into things. And it's like, no, I just go with it.
Yeah.
Where, it'll take her days to find wallpaper or something, or a sofa or whatever. I go into a store, look around, that's it.
It just shows
And
up.
we're done.
Yeah.
And we're done. So, you know, I think it's the only way to be, really.
It does make life a lot easier.
It certainly does. And, you know, I studied under Doreen Virtue. I do a lot of angel therapy. And when we were doing past life regression, she was saying, when something comes into your head, just blah, just let it go. Because that's what people are supposed to know. You know, there's so many times where people will hold back and go, oh, that doesn't sound right. That could be really weird. And I know when I've done psychic readings, people ask me about, you know, where do you think I'll move? And all of a sudden, something just pops in my head like Rhode Island. I mean, out of nowhere, Rhode Island. And they're like, I love Rhode Island. I live there and I've always thought about going back there. So, I mean, does that sort of thing, you can relate to that?
Absolutely. It's how you live life. You just stay open to what the universe provides, and you walk down that path.
Exactly.
And it gives you indicators left and right as to where you want to go. It's when our heads get in the way or our critical minds get in the way, that's when we start going off path and it feels like we're trying to swim upstream. And things get difficult.
Exactly. Well, you were telling me a great story about your wife the other day. Something about when she was at work and the coworkers.
Oh yeah, this was early on in our relationship.
Oh, okay.
And she understood what I did, and she'd actually taken one of my classes. And when we got together, she was having a difficult time out at work, and she came home and said, "You read things like this. Can you help me?" And I went, "Yeah, we can look at this." And she said, "You know, this is what's going on between me and my coworker. We're going back and forth. We can't figure this out, and it's really bad. You know, what do you get?" And I said, "Actually, it has nothing to do with you and your coworker. It's about this third person." And she went, "Wow, I didn't see that." And I said, "This is why it's triangulating. This is what's going wrong." And she went, "Perfect." So she goes back into the work and comes back that night saying, "It all cleaned up. It was ideal. It was great." So I'm going, "Wonderful. I'm glad the information was useful." And a while later, she approached me. She said, "You know, I got this problem with my boss. It's not really a problem. It's just we're trying to figure out what I need to do in my next step, and I'm thinking one way or the other way, and she wants me to do something. And, you know, can you read it?" And I went, "No." She went, "Oh, but you did so well the other time, and this is great, you know." "Can you read it?" I said, "No, I can't." She said, "Why not?" I said, "Well, from what little I'm getting right now, this is going to have a direct impact on your work, how much you travel, and your lifestyle, which is going to have a direct impact on my lifestyle, and I'm going to have an attachment to the outcome." And one of the things a lot of people don't realize about your intuition is when your judgments or your desires come into play, you skew that information. And no matter how hard you try, you will get your own preference snuck in there someplace. So I said, "I'm sorry, I can't read it." And she said, "Oh, what am I supposed to do?" I said, "Well, call our friend Janice. She reads very well, and she can give you the information." So, okay. And she comes back to me later and says, "Well, just give me what you've got." I'm going, "You're not hearing me." So I explain it to her one more time. And my wife is wonderful. She has some amazing qualities. She's a little uncomfortable asking friends for help, and this was her resistance. So this happened over a few days of her coming to me several times. And about third day, it's like I was getting frustrated, going, "You're not hearing me. You know, I'm not going to help you with this. Call Janice." She says, "Why do I have to call Janice?" And I said, "Because Janice doesn't care." She's not involved, right? She just doesn't care. So she made the phone call. Janice gave her a great read and said, "This is what's going on." And it was perfect because
Janice didn't care.
She didn't care. She had no connection to the outcome.
Right. And, you know, that's funny. That was another thing that we discussed. You asked me what I thought the difference between an intuitive and a psychic was. And I thought the answer was absolutely brilliant. And, to do the disclaimer here, not to insult anyone,
Right.
but I think what you said was beautiful. Go ahead.
You're putting me on the spot on this one because you're starting with politics right off the top, but it is kind of fun. There's two things that we learn about using our intuition. I don't have to teach people to be intuitive. They already are.
Right.
Right? I get them to release the blocks so that they get back in touch with it again. And the other key piece to that is to look at the information as just information. You have to stay out of judgment, right? Because when you're judging, you're editing,
Exactly.
right? You're changing it. It's no longer
Exactly.
clean information. So you have to stay out of judgment, and you can have no attachment to an outcome.
Right.
Same problem, right? Students were asking me, what do you see as the difference between an intuitive and a psychic? Because we were talking about nomenclature. And I said, well, jokingly, what I said was, a psychic is an intuitive with an agenda.
Okay.
All right. If this is how you make a living, if paying PG&E is, directly tied to how your client is going to experience this reading, it's going to be very, very difficult to keep your agenda out of it.
Exactly.
And you're going to have an attachment to the outcome. You're going to care about how they experience your reading. When in fact, if you're just using your intuition, I don't care how you experience it. It
That's
might
right.
upset you, it might calm you, and I don't even read how it's going to affect you first. I just give you the information.
Exactly. Exactly. Similar to Rhode Island.
There you go. You didn't look at her and say, wow, if I say Rhode Island, is she going to get upset because of what it's going to take to move there, how it's going to affect her family? You don't go there. You give them the information, and they'll accept it and
Right.
go there.
Right.
Another piece of that is when you judge how someone's going to experience something, you're actually judging them.
Exactly. So how do you do this without any kind of judgment?
And that is an interesting one. People come to me and say, is it difficult to be psychic? Does it take a long time? Do you have to learn it over years? And what I tell them is, again, you're born that way. It's an innate skill. You have all of these abilities. Can you set your edits aside? Can you set your judgments aside?
Mm-hmm.
And at first, they'll do that when they practice their readings. They'll come into the class and they'll get clear, they'll get comfortable, they'll get grounded. They'll sit in front of another student, they'll do a reading, and they'll try really hard to leave all their judgments aside and actually not care how the person experiences the information. It takes a lot of effort, and you can see it in their face. Over time, the work is to try to live outside of judgment.
Yeah,
So you don't have to switch back and forth.
exactly.
But
And
to
that's
walk-
a hard thing to do.
In our society where it's not the norm, it is a very difficult thing to accomplish. But living that way makes reading so much easier
Right.
and the information a lot clearer, and it's available to you 24/7.
That's right. So back to how you teach. Do you have some examples you could show?
Sure. I teach practical uses of intuitive.
Okay.
Every once in a while, a student will come to me and say, "Can you teach me this?" And I'm going, "I can, but I don't see the advantage to it. I don't see how you'd use it in your real world, day-to-day life."
Okay.
So I tend to stay with the practical. The first one I teach is psychometry,
Yes.
and it's the easiest skill to pick up. I've been teaching this for 20 years. I have yet to find anyone who can't come in and read an object, and that's what psychometry is. Einstein really understood it. Everything is energy. It's all made up of energy. Some of it's a little, harder than others.
Yeah.
But it's all energy. Psychometry is reading the impressions stored in objects, reading the energy that's stored there. So when I start a course, first class, psychometry. Bring a group in. We go through a meditation just to get them to clear out the day. I get them grounded. And we sit around. Everybody has put a piece of jewelry in the basket. Nobody knows anybody. We go around the room, and a person will pick up an object, and I'll show them how to read it.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll get impressions. And they might get the person's last vacation, or what their living room looks like, or the physical ailments in their body, or all sorts of things can come up. And we go around the room, and we do about 3 readings on each object, and then we ask the owner to identify themselves and give feedback. And they give us, what that meant and what it meant to them. And the information people pick up is amazing.
Wow. I can imagine.
So psychometry is a great start. And again, anyone can do this. The other piece to it is it shows people how strong of an effect objects can have. And we don't actually realize that. If you can sit with an object and get emotions coming up, and this happens from time to time, and it's a great teaching tool, somebody will pick up an object, they'll sit there and go into tears or become frightened or unsettled. And I'll ask them what they're feeling. I'm going, well, I'm struggling with reading this. I'm feeling frightened. I'm feeling, afraid or sad.
Right.
And they're going, it's just me. Maybe I had a bad day. I'm not sure, but it's coming up right now. And I think it's just the environment. I'm going, okay. Set the object down. And they put it on the table. And I said, how do you feel? The fear's gone. Going, Pick up the object again. And they pick it up. It's back. I'm going, yeah, that's the object. Our normal response is to believe it's us.
Uh-huh.
When we have a feeling, it's ours.
Oh, of course.
And they don't realize it was the object was slamming them.
I can tell you, I learned how to clean jewelry.
Yes.
And so this girlfriend of mine at work had this. It was her sister's wedding ring, and apparently she had had a bad marriage or something, gave the ring to her sister. I said, oh, let me clean that for you. Silly me. I'm holding this thing, and I'm starting to clean it, and it was like I stuck my finger in a light socket. It was just like, whoa! It took me days to get that energy out of me. And I know better. I know better than to protect myself. And I didn't do it in this case. And, I called up a friend of mine who's a shaman in Canada, and I said, Randall, what do I do? And he made me drink this nasty sage tea, and we finally got it out. But yeah, these things can affect you. Amazing.
And some of it's hand-me-downs, jewelry. You might get your grandma's brooch. And if grandma was a 1920s flapper, hey, wear it to the parties. You're going to have a great time. If grandma was a depressed alcoholic, you may have a really different experience of it.
Exactly. Exactly.
People go through the first night and they read all of these objects and they get experiences from all of them. They have a lot of fun doing it. And then they come back a week later for the second class, and things at home have changed. Some furniture's been eliminated. Some jewelry's been put, in a safe permanently. They will start making changes because they'll go through their house going, wow, that just really doesn't work for me anymore.
Right.
And houses themselves can also have energy.
Oh, yeah.
So just the structure can have a strong effect on you.
I've done some psychic house cleaning.
Yeah. It happens often.
Very, very interesting. So that's pretty wild.
Now, the key to getting people to read well is really getting their head out of the game, turning off the edits, staying out of judgment. And a big part of it is also to be grounded. And most people don't know how to stay grounded. We're not taught that. It's not part of our education. And in martial arts, it's key. If you're not grounded, you are definitely open to being injured.
Right.
You're a lot less powerful in what you do.
Right.
And staying grounded is absolute. In energy work, it's also key. Now, one of the things that I do is I teach things physically. It's a little
Okay.
different than other instructors.
Uh-huh.
If you wanted to learn grounding through more traditional approaches, you'd study meditation for a couple of years.
Right.
And over time, you'd kind of get a sense of it. And most of the time, you could kind of feel when you're grounded and when you're not.
Oh, I can tell when I'm completely scattered. I know that either I have some kind of lower energy that's hooked onto me, or I'm completely ungrounded. And luckily for me, I could just go outside and just put my hands on a redwood tree and just get the energy from that tree, and it just grounds me in a nanosecond.
And that works for you. It's a great tool.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes tools are really helpful.
Oh, yeah.
I'd prefer if students can just do it on their own, and also to actually live a lifestyle that way. That's our ultimate goal, stay grounded all the time.
Right.
When you're grounded, you read energy very clearly, a lot more easily, and you're less likely to pick up other people's stuff.
Yeah.
And that's a huge key. We do a guided meditation every night when we start to get rid of all the stuff. And I keep telling the students, if you didn't take on the first place, we wouldn't be spending so much time here. Stay grounded. That's the biggest part. So let's start with that tonight.
Okay.
And I'm going to show a physical example of this
Okay.
Using Jenny Lynn.
Okay.
And we'll bring her up.
We have a treat, Jenny Gleave. I'm so sorry. From Live with Jenny Lynn.
Great. Thank you for coming tonight. This is fun.
Thanks for including me. It's been very interesting and
Good.
exciting.
Wonderful. We're going to show a simple demonstration of grounding. And I'm going to show something that anybody can play with at home. Just grab a friend and try this out. Okay. And it's kind of fun. I'm going to have you stand with your right foot forward and your left foot back. So you're going to mimic my, there you go. And I'm going to have you put your arms out and lock your elbows. And we're going to put hand over hand and knees nice and locked. Okay? I'm going to apply pressure. You're going to resist.
Okay.
So nice and strong, right? So I'm going to stand here, right? And great form. She's got really good balance, right? You'll see her shoulders shift, right, when I apply pressure. This is her trying to deal with this energy, but she's got really good stance, okay? And as with most people, you live up here. Our heads kind of take us up here. So this is where you live, right? I'm going to show you what it's like to feel grounded.
Okay.
So same position, nothing has changed, right? What I'd like you to do is think about your hips. So close your eyes for a moment and just focus on your hips. There you go. Now you can open your eyes. Stay focused on your hips. Oh, look at that. I can't move you.
You wanted to?
Yeah.
You wanted to make me move?
Yeah, and I can't move you.
See?
A little different, isn't it?
I didn't know. I thought I was resisting
You simply dropped here.
Right.
Okay? So when you drop your energy down to your hips, you become grounded. You become heavier and more solid. Now, martial arts, this is key. If you're not grounded, your strikes don't work as well, your blocks don't work as well, nothing works as well.
Okay.
And basically, when you're grounded, you become a lot more stable, all right? I'm going to have you turn this way for a moment and move your legs apart just a little bit so you've got some stance, okay? I'm going to pull on your arm. This is a self-defense example.
Okay.
And you're going to resist. So nice and strong. Here we go. You ready? Stop me from doing it. Keep going. Pull, 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 pull back. Okay. It's quite a bit of effort.
Yeah.
Right? So one more time.
Okay.
Nice and strong. Pretty good, but I can pull you off balance.
I know,
right?
because I'm
Yeah, but I've got a sense of how strong you are.
Okay.
So it's not a competition. It's just to get a feel for
Right,
it. All right.
right.
So if you think about your hips again, there, you're grounded again. Now, your body is grounded, but your arm isn't. So we want to attach these two together.
Okay.
So I want you to visualize, I want you to imagine a steel rod that connects your wrist to your hip. Feel it? Here to here. Nice and strong again. Steel rod. It takes a lot more to pull you over.
Right.
Right? That grounded your wrist to your body. In martial arts, when people ground, right, if they're attacked and they're grabbed, they don't move. It's very frustrating to the opponent, a little frightening too, and that's what we want. Make sense?
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jenny Lynn. So, what are some of the practical uses aside from martial arts for grounding and psychometry?
Psychometry is a big field. When you're grounded, you are safer in the world. You are safer physically, you're safer emotionally, energetically, and your intuitive works so much more easily for you. Psychometry is one of the skills that I teach in the intuitive workshops. And it has an awful lot of different advantages. Okay, we talked about jewelry. Yeah, you
Right.
can, besides reading jewelry and making better choices, you can learn how to cleanse jewelry, cleanse objects, homes. I've been brought in on many homes that simply would not sell because there was a suicide or a murder or something, and it was nasty. Or just generally, you know, it can have the feelings of a disrupted relationship. You know,
Yeah.
anything can sit in there. Some people will bring me in to cleanse a home just because there's been a relationship change.
Right.
Okay. So those are some practical examples of
that's-
psychometry.
Yeah, those are wonderful. Now, tonight we're doing actually a 2-part series. So I'm going to end with part 1,
Okay.
and then we're going to take a break, and we will go back to part 2.
Wonderful.
So I look forward to it. Thanks.